Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Walker, and I'm an Associate Director in the International Student Services Office. I would like to welcome you to the ISSO Live Q&A event. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time zone you're in. We currently have 213 attendees for today's event. I'm just going to go over some of the formatting before we get started. Our goal today is to answer your questions and provide information as we do in advising. We know that there's a lot of new information coming out that impacts international students, and our goal is to give you all of the information you need to make educated decisions about what is best for your academic and immigration future. We do have pre-submitted questions from alumni and prospective students, so we'll be answering both, and there may be some overlap because some of the same things may affect both groups of students. Also later in the event, we will have a presentation about the recent broadcast, going over fall enrollment questions. Just as a side note, we did have pre-submitted questions, which were predominantly from current students. Some of those may still be relevant, some may not, depending on the impact of the broadcast message that came out. So we may not get to all of those pre-submitted questions. And also to let you know that we will have a live Q&A at the end where we should be able to address your questions. And we will get to as many questions as possible, and the ones we cannot, we will update on our FAQ page on our website. Also, just to let you know that after today's live event, this presentation will be posted on our YouTube channel. So now I would like to introduce Samaya Williams. She is going to be addressing our submitted questions, and Samaya Williams is an international student advisor in the International Student Services Office.
Good morning, everybody. We're so excited to have you with us this morning. Right now, the attendees are growing, so we have 391 of you all with us right now. And as Lisa mentioned, this will also be available for you all to watch or see the questions on our YouTube channel. So this morning, I'm going to be addressing some questions from prospective and alumni. Again, these were pre-submitted questions. And so we did narrow them down to things that we thought would be most important for you guys to hear today. The first question that I'm going to answer is from prospective, and the student asked, for my first semester at UT Dallas, I want to enroll virtually from my home country. What should be the start date on my I-20, and when should I apply for the I-20? So the program start date on your I-20 should be the semester you will enter the U.S. in F1 status, not the first semester that you will start your program at UT Dallas if it is virtual. We do recommend applying for your visa as soon as you're able. Since it is unclear when the Department of State will begin issuing visas again, it's best to have your I-20 so you can schedule your visa appointment as soon as you are available. We also have a great resource for you all, the F1 Virtual Start site. We have plenty of frequently asked questions where you guys can see answers to those. And then again, just plenty of resources for you guys to refer to if you have additional questions. The second question for prospective students that we have is, if I obtain my visa in the middle of the fall semester, can I enter the US and then switch to an in-person class? Again, we want to encourage you to visit the F1 Virtual Start website and just see if your question can be answered through the frequently asked questions. And then, of course, if they are not, we're always happy to help. Remember that the earliest that you may enter the U.S. is 30 days prior to the program start date on your I-20. I really want to reiterate that the program start date on your I-20 should be the semester in which you will enter the U.S. If you will start classes virtually for the fall semester, an I-20 and have an I-20 with the spring 2021 start date, for example, January 11th, then you can only enter as early as 30 days before that date, which would be December 12th. We also have an 8-week term for the fall that would begin in early October. So if you're able to get your visa in time to come on campus for that 8-week term, we will happily work with you to make sure that you are able to meet your immigration requirements and get the appropriate immigration documents for that mid-semester start. Keep in mind that I-20s with the 8-week term start dates will only be issued closer to the start of fall classes, once we hear about the status of the Department of State operations. Refer to your academic department for questions regarding switching between online and face-to-face courses. I also want to remind you all that you are responsible for both your academic and your immigration side. So sometimes we may need to refer you to your academic department. Once inside the U.S., you must meet F1 enrollment requirements. Those requirements will be discussed in the presentation later. As a reminder, if we have any prospective students that are here on our feed, we will have a Q&A section later in the presentation. So if there was anything that I didn't just cover, remember that you can still post your Q&As and we will try our best to get to it if the time allows. For this portion of the pre-submitted questions, I'm going to be addressing a few questions that we received from alumni. The first one is COVID-19 affecting USCIS processing times for OPT and STEM extension applications? So currently, the only USCIS processes currently in hold are in-person processes, like interviews and biometric appointments. In our experience, until now, we have not seen any OPT or STEM OPT extension processing times affected. Currently, the average has still been around 90 days, although we have seen a significant number of post-completion OPTs applications approved within 60 days. That being said, it is important to note that around 70% of USCIS's staff are soon to be furloughed. Subsequently, processing times will likely be impacted. So if you do have a question regarding processing times and it's beyond us doing the recommendation through the ISSO, you should check USCIS's website to check your case status, and you also should be able to reach out to USCIS to check your case status if it has been processing for an excessive amount of time. For the next question, the student asked, my OPT was recently approved. What are my reporting responsibilities? The most important thing to remember is that you must report to the ISSO within the first 10 days of your OPT period. If you are unemployed, meaning you do not have a current job offer or you do not have a job offer for employment in the future, you must report that unemployment on the OPT reporting form. If you have started employment at the start of your EAD start date, report that start date and employer information. Submit a copy of your EAD once you receive it, and to properly maintain your F1 status, you must report any change in employment information, residential address, or legal name to the ISSO no later than 10 days after the change. Report these changes by submitting the OPT reporting form, which can be found on our website if you click the link Forms, to ISSO documents at UT Dallas. Once you timely report to the ISSO within 10 days, your reporting requirement is met. You do not need the I-20 to begin employment. The EAD will be your work authorization. Currently, processing times for OPT reporting is at 14 business days. I just want to stop and say hello to those who have recently joined us. We are now at 504 attendees, so we're so happy to have you again. And right now we are going over pre-submitted questions from alumni students. I have a couple more and then we're going to move forward. The next question is, my SEVP portal shows that my STEM validation is past due. I already submitted it to the ISSO. When will you process it? You must timely submit your validation documents no later than 10 days after the due date. From there, the ISSO has a regulatory 21 days to report that information in SEVIS. We mention this because you will continue to see the past due note on your SEVP portal until we have made the validation, until we have submitted the validation in your SEVIS record. Processing time for STEM reporting and validations are also at 14 business days. For the STEM reporting form, you can review page 1 for processing tips. Unfortunately, we do not accept expedite requests for STEM validations, so we recommend submitting them a good 2 to 3 weeks prior to the due date. Just as a reminder, we also sent an email that summarizes these requirements and should be able to answer the majority of your questions. The final question that we have is, my H-1B was approved this year. Does the recent presidential H-1B proclamation affect me? So I want you guys to remember that we did send an email to students, and I'm going to go over the affected individuals as well as implications for the immigration population of UT Dallas. As far as the affected individuals, that includes foreign nationals who are outside of the US and do not have a valid non-immigrant visa or official travel document other than a visa. H-1B temporary employees in specialty occupations, H-2B temporary non-agricultural laborers, J, work and study-based exchange coming to serve as an intern, trainee, teacher, camp counselor, au pair, or summer work travel. The final list, or the final group for affected individuals, would be the L intracompany transferee executives or managers. As far as implications for the immigration population of UT Dallas, currently there's no immediate impact on individuals already physically present in the US. Though this is subject to change, individuals who are presently in the United States in F1 or J1 student, research scholar, or short-term scholar status are able to remain in the US working and studying as appropriate for their immigration category. Current employees should largely be outside of the scope of the ban as long as they are already in the US or have a valid visa or other qualifying document. Routine visa services have been unavailable at US consulates for months due to COVID-19. So the practical impact of this new ban is unfortunately unknown at this time. As always, the University of Texas at Dallas is committed to helping new and continuing students with F1 visas remain on track. Again, we would like to thank all of the students that took the time to submit questions. Please remember that we have advising services where you can schedule an appointment to speak with an advisor, and you can also submit your questions through the Ask an Advisor e-form through iComment. We also will be sending immigration news regularly, so please make sure that you are checking your UT Dallas email and that you are staying up to date on the most recent immigration news. Thank you.
Thank you, Samaya. I would like to introduce Josephine Vita, the Director of the International Student Services Office, who is going to be giving you a presentation concerning the broadcast message that was released yesterday.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you've been able to join us. Thank you so much to those of you who submitted pre-submitted questions, and thank you also to those of you who have submitted questions in the Q&A. My responsibility today is give you some information about the broadcast message that we've received earlier this week. I know many of you have read it, and have already started thinking about how it's going to impact your life. So I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about it and make sure that we do have some time for your specific questions. So if we could get to the next slide, please. So Samaya mentioned this earlier. I want to reiterate. At UT Dallas, we have a large international student population, which means we know how to adapt and prepare in order to serve your immigration needs. We cannot control the timing of things. We cannot always control what the regulations are as much as I know some of you ask us to have them be different. What we can do is help explain them to you, advise universities so that we can get things in place for you. So to reiterate, we are committed to help you stay on track. We want you to get your internships. We want you to graduate on time. We want you to still have a very great experience at UT Dallas. There may be, in the course of weeks, you may have seen in the newspapers, there may be some legal challenges about the broadcast message. We will let those things play in the courts while we help you with this time frame. So let's go ahead to the next slide, which discusses our instructional plan. So from before the time when our university went to the online mode in March, we've been having working groups to help plan for what was to happen. So we planned for the spring, we planned for the summer, and then we started, obviously, during the course of the summer, working towards the plan for the fall. The good news is the broadcast message does not take us very far from what we had intended to do. The plan for the university is for us to have a hybrid mixture of classes, which has face-to-face and remote learning, as well as some fully online classes. I don't think that that's going to be affected by the broadcast message. We fall into Section 3, so there's no requirement for you to feel that you must depart. We're not in a fully online mode. We are able to have courses that accommodate your academic needs. What will happen though in the coming days, I would expect, is that you're going to get specific information from the registrar's office, from your academic department, to discuss the different options for the instructional modes and to see if you need to change your courses. You may choose to change your courses, you may choose to keep them the same. Those are going to be decisions for you, but you are going to be getting more specific academic information to help you decide, are there any adjustments that need to be made to your course schedule? At that point, you will then have the choice to make those amendments. By the guidance, we are going to be helping you understand what are the minimum number of online classes that you would need to enroll in the United States. However, the guidance is very clear. A fully online academic program is not going to be appropriate for students who are physically in the United States. For those of you students who are outside of the United States or choose to depart the United States, you will still be able to continue your UT Dallas education outside of the United States. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. If we can go to the next slide. So there are a few considerations that I want to pull out from the language of the guidance to make sure that you're aware. So as I said, I talked a little bit about physical presence. With this guidance, you must be in the United States to maintain your F1 status. So this is very similar to how it was to pre-COVID, where you have to be here to be in F1 status. If you are going to be taking classes while you're abroad and you're a current student, you will not be in F1 status. We will be reaching out to you to explain the authorized early withdrawal process. The information is also on our website to share with you how you can let us know that your plan is to end your F1 status and depart to your home country. We'll also be able to provide you with the deadlines that fit in with the new guidance. However, historically, the deadlines for the authorized early withdrawal are a little bit later, normally around Census Day. However, we think with the guidance, they may be earlier. So we'll be providing specific information to you about that. If you are outside of the United States because you are still in FV status, you have not yet started your academic program, again, you can still continue to take the online classes in that FV status and prepare to be in F1 status when you physically enter the United States. The second point I want to mention is that the normal reduced course load authorizations will continue to be allowed. There are circumstances where students are not able to take a full course load. This will remain. So for example, if you have a medical reason, your medical physician or other licensed practitioner in the United States, and this includes physical health and mental health, if they determine that you're not able to take a full course load, or you can only take one class or two classes, you are still able to submit that documentation and request a reduced course load. The same thing goes for the academic reasons why you might be eligible for a reduced course load. If you're having problems with the English language or reading requirements or some of the other academic reasons, you will still be able to petition for academic reduced course load regardless of the guidance. Many of our students take advantage of the graduating semester reduced course load. In your final graduating semester, you may not need to take 9 credit hours. That will also continue. We have many students in our final semester who are, doing a CPT and maybe taking one or other credits. So we don't expect to see a lot of impact on those students in terms of the number of credits you're going to need to do, although you will need to remember that you cannot be fully online in your graduating semester. This is actually very consistent with the pre-COVID rules where you could not have fully online classes in your graduating semester. Our PhD students and our master's students who are doing a thesis dissertation who've completed all of their coursework and who are simply working on research or dissertation hours, I don't expect you to be very much impacted as well. The normal enrollment that is required as part of this is probably going to be sufficient to fulfill the requirements. And so you would not need to enroll in additional classes if you're doing your thesis or dissertation. And of course, we're so fortunate, many of our students are still able to get great CPT internships in the United States. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I get the opportunity to come to our campus and I issue physical CPTs for some of you all who have new jobs and are going to get SSN letters. We don't really see an impact for students who are eligible CPT for the fall semester. So that will be something that you'll be able to continue. So in the coming weeks, check your email. We hope to also be able to do some more live events. We're going to be giving you much more specific information as we implement some of the guidance with COVID and as we start to see what your enrollment is going to be. We're going to ask you to let us know what your plans are. Are you planning on being physically present in the United States? We will, if that's the case, we will need to reissue your I-20 to you by the 4th of August. So look out for that information, think about it, talk about what you want to do with your family. We're here to support you and answer any questions that you have, and then let us know so that we can issue that I-20 for you in time. And that'll be well before the semester starts, so you'll have one less thing to worry about as classes go on. I do want to also let you know we sent an email through our listserv, and if you didn't receive it, it's also on our website. We have some FAQs that discuss the guidance. It has some of the things, really, I pulled what you sent in our email boards, and so some of you may recognize some of the questions, but I pulled some of those and we answered them, and we're also going to add to the FAQs on our website based on the questions that you submit today. So that's going to be a living web page that will be able to give you the information that you need at the time that works for you so that you can make the decisions that are best for you. So let's go ahead and move to the last slide for me. First of all, I know how difficult it is to be an F1 student. My husband was an F1 student from Tanzania. It is nerve-wracking. You and your family have worked really hard and you studied really hard and you've gotten here or you're planning on coming here, and it is an added layer of challenge sometimes when things change and they add a layer of uncertainty. I understand that. What I want you to know is that we are here, the university at the highest levels at UT Dallas are working to come up with academic solutions to be able to advise you on this. We are fortunate to be part of the UT system. The leadership of the UT system, including the chancellor, are very much involved in making sure that as a system, we are taking care of the almost 20,000 students and scholars that are under our care in the United States. Okay, so we will work with you. We will ensure that we're able to comply with these requirements and we'll also make sure that your safety is taken care of as you work towards completing your degrees. So I'm going to finish there. I know we have a number of questions. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Josephine. So now we're going to have our live Q&A section of the presentation. We have a number of questions. I am going to refer the questions related to the broadcast message to Josephine Vita, and those unrelated but related to other F1 student concerns to Zachary Brown. Our first question is, I'm an international student currently outside the United States. I am wanting to travel back to the United States. Will I need a new I-20 with new remark in the remark section as stated in the broadcast message, or can I travel with the earlier issued I-20 which does not have specified remarks? So I'm going to defer that question to Josephine.
Thank you so much for that question. That's a very good question. We've actually heard from a number of you who are traveling in the coming weeks and days. And so what I'd like you to do is, first, we're going to reach out to you to make sure that we understand your situation and know what your specific date is. If you're traveling within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days, we're not going to be able to issue that I-20 to you. And I actually don't foresee that it's going to cause any problems at this point. What we want to do is, if we have a little bit more lead time, say you're traveling in the next 2 weeks, we want to try to get that I-20 to you as soon as possible. So if you have not yet sent us an email specifically, ideally through the Ask an Advisor e-form to let us know that you need it and what your travel dates are, we'll be able to respond to you and determine if we can get that to you before you travel.
All right, thank you, Josephine. Our next question, what is the definition, oh, sorry, oops, there's one before that. Will starting virtually in fall affect my chances of getting an F1 visa for spring 2021? I think this is also related to the broadcast message, so I'm going to hand this one to Josephine as well.
All right, thank you so much. That's a great question. I love to answer questions about the virtual start. So my understanding of the question is that you are going to be starting virtually and you want to know how that's going to impact your visa interview. Well, let me tell you, one of the most difficult things for students during the visa interview is to be able to establish that they have a bona fide resident in their home country, and that they're a bona fide student and they're planning on returning to their home country. These are the two things that we see pose challenges in visa interview. Having already have started your academic program answers the first one very well. You are a bona fide student of UT Dallas. You are not just getting an I-20 to enter the United States and then disappear. You really have the intention, and also you can show your grades. You can show that you're able to work and perform at the level of this university. I think that's a very positive thing for you to have.
Thank you, Josephine. Our next question, what is the definition for online, face-to-face, and hybrid classes? Could the class be face-to-face with an online option? How will this be during the semester? This is related to the enrollment requirement in the broadcast message as well, so I will hand this one over to Josephine.
So we know academically, we know that there's a variety of different modes in which classes can be offered. You're absolutely correct. You can have classes that have components of both online work, participation, group projects, discussion, as well as in-person requirements. We will have classes that are offered in the fall that are face-to-face, meaning they are in person, and online, and then we will have 3 options in between. They are going to range with the level of, or rather the percentage of time that you're going to need to spend on campus and in a face-to-face module. So some of them you will only need to be in person for maybe 30% of the time, some of them will be 50% of the time. So we're going to encourage you to look out for the information and the communication from the registrar's office and the academic departments that have that specific level of detail to help you pick, based on your major, what the modality is that works for you. It might be very different if you're studying biology, or you might need some class times, and that might be very different from other types of majors. So look out for that information. You will see possibly 5 different course options for you to determine, and 3 of them will have a blend of online and in person.
Thank you, Josephine. Next question. How long do I have to prepare for leaving if I choose fully online classes and depart the United States? Josephine.
So I feel very lucky I get to answer so many of those questions. So what I'll say is this. The decision about whether or not you need to depart is a very deeply personal choice, and we support you in whatever makes sense for you. There are, I understand and I absolutely get it. The question about when the actual departure date is something that we're still trying to work out as we analyze the guidance. What we know for sure is that the guidance asks us to verify the academic status of students who are going to be physically present in the United States by the 4th of August. What we believe that means is that for students who are not going to be physically present in the United States, we need to manage that SEVIS immigration record by that date, which is why we're recommending students to submit the authorized early withdrawal form by that point. What we want to do as we continue to analyze that is give you more specific information and more specific instructions. There might be a new e-form that you're going to need to answer in iCommit that helps us streamline that process. So while historically the deadline, if you're going to be departing the United States before a semester start, historically that deadline was Census Day. I believe as a result of the guidance, it's going to be earlier. So you're looking at August as that time.
All right, next question. Will research credits be considered as in-person for meeting the requirements set by SEVP per the July 6th notice? Another one for you, Josephine.
All right, absolutely. We believe that since research courses are generally face-to-face courses, for those PhD students who've already completed all your coursework, I do not foresee that you're going to be impacted by the guidance in the same way because the research courses are already set up to be able to meet them.
All right, thank you. I believe our next question will be for Zachary Brown. The question is, will OPT STEM extensions be affected by a virtual start in fall 2020?
Cool, great question. So I think there's 2 parts to this question. There's eligibility for practical training and USCIS processing. When we're talking about eligibility for practical training, that main point for eligibility is that you've lawfully enrolled full-time for a full academic year in the United States. So certainly if you enter the United States in F1 status later than you normally would have planned to, you might not be able to get to that full year of lawful enrollment by the time you wanted to apply for practical training. Because many of the programs at UT Dallas, 2-3 years, if you're only showing up 1 semester late, It's unlikely that that would really impact your eligibility for practical training, especially if we're talking about post-completion. So that's the eligibility side. For the USCIS processing time, as of now, we have no reason to believe that doing 1 semester of virtual start and coming in later in your F1 status for a later semester will impact their processing of your OPT or STEM petitions. We are awaiting the new SCVP COVID-19 FAQ to follow, or that follows this CVIS broadcast. There will likely be some questions and answers on that FAQ related to OPT and STEM. So of course, once that comes out, our office will review it and then communicate it out to all students and alumni.
Thank you, Zach. Our next question is, if an internship is virtual for fall 2020, will it be counted as a face-to-face course or an in-person class? I will direct that one to Josephine.
So with the internship, the determination of whether it's face-to-face or online is going to be based on the way the course is listed in coursebook, not necessarily whether you're working from home during the course of the internship. We know that as a result of COVID, USCIS gave a lot of latitude to say that employers can work from home. We know a lot of employers are continuing to work from home and will be doing so for the long term. I have not seen anything in the guidance or in any of the discussions that makes me think that there's going to be an impact if you're taking the CPT course and the actual CPT work is done while you're working from home. If that changes, we'll let you know, but I have not seen any indication that will work. The CPT class itself is listed as face-to-face, and so as always, that should be sufficient to meet face-to-face requirements.
Thank you, Josephine. Next question is for Zach. What if my visa expires in August 2020? Right now, I'm in the United States and will transfer my I-20 from my graduate school to UT Dallas.
Great question. So a valid visa, that's the stamp in your passport, is not required in order for you to properly maintain your F1 status. You can continue to maintain your F1 status with an expired visa. You can even apply for practical training like OPT with an expired visa. That new visa renewal is only going to be required if you depart the United States and plan on re-entering in F1 status.
Thank you, Zach. Our next question will be for Josephine. A student asked, do we need a new I-20 if we wish to come in October of 2020?
Thank you, Lisa. So a lot is going to depend on what your I-20 actually says. So you're going to want to look on your I-20 and look under the section where it says program start date. For most of you who've been admitted for the fall, I think everybody who's been admitted for the fall, you should have the first date of fall classes in August. If you find that you're not going to be able to come in August, but you think you will be able to come in October, we will need to issue you a new I-20 that has an October start date. And I believe that start date is going to be the 12th of October. And so closer to the start of classes, you're going to reach out to us and say, I should be able to make it. I've got a visa interview. I need to have that updated I-20 for the second 8-week term. We will be able to change that start date after we get confirmation from your academic department that you will have the courses in your academic program to meet the enrollment requirements once you arrive in October. Once we have that, we'll be able to send that to you so that you can arrive in the United States.
Thank you, Josephine. The next question will be for Zach. A student asked, I'm currently in H4 status and I'm planning to convert to F1 status. Is it safe for me to convert to F1 status with the current situation?
So let me preface by saying change of status, probably one of the most complicated immigration topics for F1 students. So I would definitely recommend scheduling an advising appointment so that you can have a really thorough conversation about some risks and timelines to consider with an ISSO advisor. Until then, there are some challenges that I would like to bring to your attention. In terms of changing your status, you can either do so within the United States by filing an I-539 petition with USCIS, or departing the United States, applying for an F1 visa, and re-entering with that new F1 visa. There are challenges for both of those options right now. For the USCIS petition, USCIS is currently not doing any in-person processes, so biometrics and interviews. A change of status petition requires a biometrics appointment, so that petition might be a little bit delayed. For the other side, the travel option, the Department of State is currently not issuing visas. We're hearing limited reports of some offices accepting appointments, but as of now, we don't really know when the Department of State will be opening for widespread, right? So I think those are the two biggest challenges to consider right now. Additionally, to consider if your current immigration status allows you to enroll lawfully at UT Dallas. If that is the case, you might be able to begin classes in your current status and switch later on. But for more information, I would again, recommend you come for advising so we can talk more thoroughly, especially about the specifics of your situation.
Thank you, Zach. The next question is directed to Josephine. The student asked, suppose I switch to FV on iComment for virtual classes. Am I still allowed to go ahead with the F1 visa interview in August?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what we would like you to do. You can start virtually, go ahead and get your visa appointment depending on what that date is in August. It might still give you enough time to enter the United States if there's flight ability from your country to the United States. And if not, depending on the length of the visa, you may be able to come for the 8-week term if your academic courses and your academic department allows it.
Thank you, Josephine. The next question will be addressed by Zach Brown. A student asked, I'm a PhD student on F1 visa. My spouse plans to travel to the US on an F2 visa from Australia. Are there any implications for her?
So similar to the change of status question, there's some more specifics about your particular situation I would need to know before I can answer confidently for you. But I think this is a good segue to maybe just talk about travel restrictions in general. Travel restrictions are kind of changing on an almost daily basis, and they vary from country to country, right? I don't know if necessarily the ISSO is always the best resource for those travel restrictions. We can certainly aid you in looking up that information, but ideally the travel restrictions for the United States you could find on the CDC Center for Disease Control web pages, and then for your own countries, or third countries like Australia refer to their own government websites for travel restrictions as well. In terms of the F2 traveling, once we get the more specifics about your situation, like the status of their F2 visa, we can definitely help you out further. So please schedule that advising appointment.
Thank you, Zach. I'm going to direct the next question to Josephine. The student asked, what will happen to international students if UTD chooses in the future to provide online classes only? Do students need to go back to their home country immediately?
So I wish I had a very specific answer for this one, but I don't. What I can tell you is that the guidance state unequivocally that schools that either start fully online or transition to a fully online status will not be able to maintain the status of the F1 students at that institution. And so the guidance gave the options of transferring out to another institution that has face-to-face classes or departing the United States. There was no timeline in the guidance in terms of assisting schools or students to determine what that time frame would be. The reason why we would switch to online is because the health situation has deteriorated to the point that that's the safest option, which may or may not be a good time to depart and travel outside the United States. So that is one of the questions that we're asking. One of the things that we can do is ask our liaison at the Department of Homeland Security for their guidance about specific things that were not covered. That is certainly one of the things that we are asking about in terms of timeline to get more clarity. Unfortunately, I don't have a specific answer right now.
Thank you, Josephine. I think the next one will be for Josephine as well. A student asked, I have been issued a new I-20 for OPT. I have just sent my documents to USCIS. My OPT start date is September 15th. Will I need to be issued a new I-20 to remain in the United States?
So the ISSO has the responsibility to issue an I-20 for all F1 students who are planning to be physically present in the United States after August 4th. So we will issue that to you, and that'll be our responsibility. There won't be anything further that you need to do other than just confirm with us what your status is, and so that we can issue that to you and get it to you by mail or digitally. So we will need to do that in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Josephine. The next question will be for Zach. The student asked, I am in the United States on an L2 visa and I intend to complete my course at UT Dallas on the same visa. Do the new regulations impact me in any way?
Good question. It's important to remember that this specific CBIS broadcast is targeted specifically at F1 students for the fall 2020 semester. So if you are not currently in F1 status studying for the fall 2020 semester, it should not have any direct impact on you.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, this is the next question. Hi, I want to know what happens if someone is in their home country and want to maintain F1 status. I want to join again in-person classes from spring 2021 and have completed 1 year at UTD already. I will direct this question towards Josephine.
Hi, so we do know that some of our students were able to depart the United States once the university went to an online format in March, and we know several more of you may have traveled outside the United States over the summer. With the way the rules that DHS had put out prior to the broadcast message that we received on Monday, those F1 students were able to maintain their F1 status outside of the United States while studying full time. They were able to continue to accrue time towards CPT or OPT. They will be able to maintain F1 employment and have all of, you could even do a CPT. So all of those F1 benefits were still valid for spring and for summer under the rules that DHS had at that time. However, at this time, that's not going to be something that's available to our students who are outside the United States. And so it'll revert back to what the rules were prior to COVID, where you'd want to fill out an authorized early withdrawal, let us know that you're going to be outside the United States. We would go into CVIS and indicate that you are going to be ending your F1 status at this time. This is a non-negative termination of your F1 status. It has no negative benefit to you in the future if you're ever returning to the US, applying for a visa, applying for OPT, etc. We have a lot of students who choose this options if they have family or other situations where they need to depart the United States. Now, historically, when you are returning to the United States after authorized early withdrawal, if you do it within 5 months of your departure, we can request a reactivation of your CVIS record. Now, this is where we go to CVIS and say, this is the student, they're coming back, this is their flight information. We fully support their ability to return to the United States and resume their F1 status. USCIS has the discretion to be able to make those decisions, and the vast majority of them are able to be approved. Now, if it's going to be more than 5 months, then you, the student, would need to apply for I-20 with a different SEVIS ID, pay the SEVIS fee one more time, and then arrive in the United States with a different SEVIS immigration record. What that means is it's sort of like turning back the clock on your immigration status in the United States, where you would then need to maintain 1 year, 1 academic year of full-time enrollment before you're eligible for benefits such as CPT and OPT. It does not affect your academics. You still keep the academic record, the credits, everything that you earned academically before you left. However, it restarts your immigration clock. So that's the difference between what we were able to do for F1 students in the spring and summer who are outside the United States and what's going to be effective for fall based on the guidance.
Thank you, Josephine. Our next question, can I do the internship from outside United States? And what will be its impact on my visa status? So I think this has been addressed before, but I will ask Josephine.
So that's correct. So if you're doing an internship in your graduating semester here physically in the United States, it's actually, I expect it to look pretty much the same, where you take your internship class, which is a face-to-face class. We do know that sometimes students take online classes in addition to that. I don't expect there to be any difference from previous graduating semesters, so long as you have that face-to-face class in the internship class.
Thank you. We have another question about a graduating semester. Can I take 6 credits online along with 2 internship credits in my graduating semester? Josephine?
So this is very similar to the previous question that I answered, and we're actually getting a lot of really good questions about this. I'm so excited that so many of you all are going to be working on internships in the fall. You have a lot of really strong business and analytical and technical skills that are in demand, so I'm really glad to hear that. In terms of your enrollment, the CPT regulations allow you to be below full-time every other long semester. So if it's not your graduating semester, we're going to need to analyze whether or not you had a reduced course load due to CPT in the spring, and that'll help us determine whether you can have a reduced course load due to CPT in the fall. Now, this is for graduate students. Undergraduate students who are not in their graduating semester will still need to have 12 credit hours because that's by regulation. In your graduating semester, if you're doing the CPT internship class, 1 credit, 2 credit, 3 credits of internship, which is face-to-face, I do not foresee there's going to be any problems with you also doing the additional online classes that many of you do, and you will be allowed to have the reduced course load because it's your graduating semester.
Thank you. Next question. What is the status of the business analytics zip code change? I will direct that towards Josephine.
It looks like we might be having some technical difficulties, so I think I can answer that question for Josephine. So the question was, what is the status of the business analytics zip code change? As of now, we haven't had any updates to communicate with students. The last update we sent was in February. In February, we sent a business analytics FAQ. We also posted some of those FAQ questions on our website, if you look at the STEM eligible degree list page on our website. So I would still refer you to those questions and to that FAQ that we sent in February. If you lost track of that email, it's been a couple months. Maybe check with a friend to see if they have it. If not, just let us know and we can send you a new version of it. When I say there hasn't been any updates, that means neither ICE has stated when they will make the change for the new zip code, nor have they stated whether or not they will add the new business analytics zip code to the STEM eligible list. So of course, if there are any updates, our office will review them and communicate them as soon as we are aware.
Thank you, Zach. I think Zach can address the next question as well. One moment. All right, the next question. I am a prospective PhD student and I plan to be physically present on campus in fall 2020. The consulate is closed and not scheduling any visa appointments, F1 visa appointments. What happens if I get a new I-20 and the consulate does not schedule an appointment till the beginning of the semester?
Great. We're always excited to have new PhD students, so we're excited to get you here. Obviously, we would like to see you here for the fall semester, but you would be unable to enter the United States in F1 status without that F1 visa. So it really depends on when you're able to get that interview appointment. It's going to be a personal decision to determine whether or not you want to start those classes virtually for the fall semester, which we would encourage, or start them for a later semester. As we talked about previously, right, there could be options to get an I-20 with a mid-semester start date. That would be that October start date. And if not that, then the next semester, which would be the spring start date. We have the F1 virtual webpage or FAQ on our website, so I would recommend taking a look at that. But also for a lot of our prospective students that are in that situation where they're unsure of what they should do with their program, should they defer, should they do virtually or not, I would really encourage you to schedule that visa appointment just so you can, or sorry, that advising appointment with our office, just so that you can have a really lengthy discussion with one of our advisors to discuss, pros and cons and all the different possibilities.
Thank you, Zach. I'm going to direct the next question to Josephine. A student asked, I am currently in the United States, but planning to depart to my home country. The fall semester will be my graduating semester. Am I able to take 4 online courses and finish up my program outside the United States?
All right, I'm so glad to hear you're so close to graduating, and that's always really good news. So if you decide that the best decision for you is to depart the United States, we fully support that and can advise you on that process. You are able to take your classes outside the United States, even if you are not in F1 status. The classes that were going to be offered by the university are going to have not only a variety of modalities, you're going to be able to view them and participate even if you're in a different time zone and are outside the United States. So you're welcome to enroll in those classes, complete them, and get everything taken care of for your degree. What we do want you to keep in mind on the immigration side is that if your intention was to apply for OPT, you would not be able to do that outside the United States. You would not be able to do that while you're on authorized early withdrawal. So if that's a decision you're going to make in your graduating semester, please know that you are forfeiting your right for OPT for this degree. If you have any additional questions about that, I also encourage you to schedule an appointment. And I do want to say something really quickly about our appointments. We are aware that they get very full. A lot of students would like to have advising appointment. We generally have about 55 slots available on the days that we're seeing students. And at times like this, where there's a lot of students who have questions, those slots can go very quickly. What we do want you to know is that we only open several days at a time, so that every day we're releasing new advising appointments. So I would recommend give us a couple of days, go online and see if there's a new advising slot available so that you can be able to ask that question to us, and we'll be able to get that to you.
Thank you, Josephine. We still have many questions pending from our students. Unfortunately, we will not be able to address them here in the live Q&A, but we will assess your questions and we will update the FAQ on our website. You are also welcome to reach out to us for advising. We want to say that we appreciate you attending our webinar today, our ISSO live event today, taking the time to join us. We hope this has been useful for you. We realize this is a challenging time, and we want you to know that we are still committed to doing what we can to help you achieve your academic and immigration goals. We would also like to say that we would appreciate some patience as we work things out. We are analyzing the new government guidance as quickly as possible so that we can let you know how it's going to impact your life. And please continue to reach out to us and respond to us and let us know how we can help you. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.